Hi, my name is Sridhar Rangayan. I'm the Festival Director of KASHISH Mumbai International Queer Film Festival, which is having its 12th edition right now. And you must all have watched the brilliant Japanese documentary film, We Are Here Together, directed by Tomoya Asanuma. And today we have him here. And to join the conversation, we also have HATAKENO, who is also a transgender activist. And we have YUKIE Mochizuki, who is the DOP of the film and the editor. So,
Here I am.
And to do the Q&A, we have this brilliant person, SHAMAN GUPTA, who is a trans man based out of India and has been working for trans rights in India for more than 5 years now. He currently leads Speed Foundation as a board member, which works for trans welfare and empowerment. So welcome to all of you for this wonderful Q&A. I hope you have a good, wonderful, candid discussion about transgender rights in Japan and also in India. Over to you, Shaman.
Welcome all of you. And we hope, to start with the fact that when I started watching the documentary, it was like mind-blowing for me. And, I really cherish this opportunity to be able to talk to you all face to face and, discuss so many things that are common between Japan and, being a trans activist and how lives have changed around us in the last few years. So the first question, right, Tomoya, for you, when did this all start, right? Like, when did you come up with this idea of this documentary? What was that emotion, or who or what influenced you to think that I want to make this film?
ですね、日本の、トランスジェンダーとか GID の
We in
人たち
Japan,
の
like there was like a lot of transgender and like GIDs people's documentary, but it's always like just focus on one person or like just like talking about treatment. But like there's nothing about human rights rebel, like what like actually like what like transgender people in community in Japan are like having problem with. So like we had this like kind of like law on transgender people like about 2004 for the better life for the transgender people, but like it's still kind of like facing so many problems. He wants to like portray what it is to live as a transgender person in Japan. Like he just wanted to picture that.
ここら辺の当事者の声だったりとか
That's beautiful, and it did come out beautifully in the movie that he showed. Right?
Mm-hmm.
ちなみに日本
So he wanted to mention that like in Japan, we still use the word GID. So, like it's like worldly it's gone, but like in Japan, we still use it.
Even in India, it's, kind of used quite often now. It's slowly dying. Yes, it's there. Next question for Tomoya, right? Like, were you always interested in filmmaking or movie making? And then, this came along that, okay, I am an activist and I want to represent these voices. Or the filmmaking itself came because he wanted to tell a story very strongly?
了解です。結論から言うと両方ですね。
Okay, so it's kind of like both. It started as like both, like he was interested in filmmaking and like also he wanted to tell this story. So like he found this time to use filmmaking to tell his voice, and he wanted to tell the voice of the people who's being actively like working on this issue, and also the trans people who are like not like necessarily activists, but like they're living the current society in Japan. And he wanted to tell the voice of each of them. So like he thought the documentary would be the best way to tell the issue. Yeah.
Got it. So the next question is for you, Yuki, actually.
Okay.
How did the shooting schedule look like? How many days was it spanned over? Was it multiple locations? And which part of it did you enjoy the most while shooting?
As you see in the film, like we interviewed like lots of people. So like it took like I think half a year to like finish interviewing, and then like after that we like edited like for a long time too. Yeah, like the location wise too, like we went to Osaka, which is like we are in Tokyo, and like to Osaka it's like 6 hours. We could film like in like a lot of different places, and like we could interview a lot of to like the trans community in like different locations. So like that was really what made this film really interesting.
Next question is for Tomoya actually. You mentioned at one point in the documentary when you're talking about the trans rights that you cannot just sit and watch, right? You have to do something to be able to make a change.
みんな世の中を変えようって思わないと世の中1ミリも変わんないんですよ。
I just wanted to know from you, how are you seeing things right now in the last 2-3 years? How has things changed from before, and what else do you think needs to be changing very soon in Japan?
今のその日本の状況ですけども、日
In
本の
Japan, as like the reality was like Japanese middle or like more older generation, like they have like really they don't have like a lot of information coming from outside Japan. So like not only like the older generation, but like in general, like in Japan, like we don't have a lot of way to understand what's going on outside. Outside, there's like a lot of focus on like the necessity of like transgender people has to like have a like a physical like operation to like change their gender or something. But in Japan, like we don't necessarily have the information like as much of like outside. So Tomato think like that is like one of the main issue. Like in Japan, like the human rights has been kind of like underrated. Like they don't really see it as important, and like we tend to kind of be like we learn to be like really patient. So like Tomato think like we need to like raise voice. Like we have the rights to like raise voice for like our rights, like including transgender people. So like she thinks it's really important to not be patient about like our rights. Like yes.
Next question is actually for either of you, and whoever has worked more closely, or both of you can answer. So I wanted to ask about the graphic transitions you have used between various sections of the movie. How did you come up with that idea, and who created those arts? Right, there are graphics between different sections. So just wanted to understand, what kind of went behind that work.
一応まあテーマごとに
He wanted to explore this feeling of like telling so like each of the section, like we put this like theme for each section, like family or like like many other. So the illustration like that was drawn by one of the transgender person in outside Japan. So like she wrote it for us, and she drew it for us. We wanted to portray this theme onto the picture and like kind of like put it in each of the section. So like to show the message from there too.
I don't know. I think that was like very well used, because before each of the section, you could see a stronger message that you're trying to convey. So that was and very well drawn as well.
Thank you.
So the movie, film talks specifically about the 2004 law that eventually got slightly modified in 2008, and is still problematic. Just tell our audience a little bit more about it. How do you think? Do you think like we are near to any point where things are changing, or do you think that it's still far away, the government trying to bring any changes?
差別障害特例法
In terms of government, like they are not really doing anything. And so like there's not much of the progress since 2004. But there's this organization that like a kind of like a local organization that could make a comment, or like they suggest some, like make a suggestion to the government. And like they are saying, because, in the worldwide, like they are like WHO, like put like a new, like a statement about like how we should think of like the way we are thinking about this like transgender community, like like all this we used to think about it as a like an illness. So like this local organization kind of like telling we should rethink about it too, like what other countries doing. Like in terms of like the action wise, they are not really making anything at the moment, but there's this kind of this organization based on like doctors in Japan, and like they made this petition to make like to progress this action. So like they send a petition to the government. So like that's one of the progress, but we are not seeing the government's action yet. So yeah, we are kind of like waiting for that at the moment.
Yeah, I can understand. And even like just to digress a bit, even in India, it kind of took so many years, and still like the recent law changes that the government has brought still has so many issues. But it's just that you have to keep on fighting, keep on saying what's right, and that probably eventually some change does come.
ちなみにインドはどうなの？
How is it working out for like changing like ID in India? Like how is it different?
So it's very recent. In 2019, Indian government kind of allowed. So we had requested for self-identification, right? Like that no document should be needed to be able to tell that I am trans or male or female. I should be able to choose anything. But the government, although they have allowed change your ID to either male or female or trans, but they still require that you have started some kind of a medical process. That is the current issue that we have.
Thank you.
Okay, next question is for you. How many hours of total footage did you end up with? And while you were editing, how difficult was it? And did you have to leave out any interviews eventually?
Yes, we had to leave a lot of great interviews, like we have to put it in like 1 hour ish. And we shot like, I don't know, like maybe like 12 hours or something. It was really, really difficult to shorten it into the feature length. So Tomoya and I really discussed like every day on the editing, like how, like what like segment we really, really need, like which part of the interview we really need to suit for the theme of these films. He had like a really like clear image of this film, so like I just need to follow that. And like we also wanted to show this to the like people who are not familiar with this issue in Japan. We are kind of like discussing how can we make it approachable for anyone who see the film.
So the next question is for Tomoya. So one of my favorite characters or protagonist was Junko, right? And like had a sense of humor. And similarly, like multiple other people who came out, spoke very strongly. There was also some of the places that they were just very light humored as well. But were there any moments which got intense, or did you feel like very high emotional energy coming out any point in time? How did you manage that, or what was the process like?
そうですね、インタビューの時に
Because it's like Sam has this personal question, so like he really cared to like ask them previously to like if you don't want to answer, like don't. They've been like a lot of people who's been on this film, who's on this film has been like working as a like actively to make a progress for this community. So they have a lot of emotional like when but like at the same time, like they really had like this strong feeling of like they don't want to make the younger generation to experience the same. similar things. So like they were really, surprisingly, they're really up to answer like any kind of question, and like that is what makes this film really emotional at some point.
So, there was one of the trans men in the movie, and I'm not able to recall his name, who is kind of living with a family, has a partner, and has had kid as well. Even in India, for example, like finding partner or finding love for a trans person, sometimes can get very difficult. There are not many online apps or, places where you find very trans friendly environment, and even in your friends and culture, always trans people are viewed in a way that they're incomplete as a cis person, although there are stories where you end up finding great love. How is it in Japan, for trans men and trans women to find partners and make a life and living with them?
日本は割と
Basically, in terms of transgender community, like in Japan, like we have this like image of like transgender people are working on this more like sex worker, like all that kind of job. But like when it comes to like accepting them in like daily life or like any work in our like the what like a normal society, like it's kind of like in Japan, like Japanese people like don't want to interrupt with, I don't want to have any close relationship with transgender community. They don't really say it out loud, but like they're like kind of like gently like having like discriminating against them. And in terms of partnership, like it's not that difficult, like it's not that hard as like maybe in India, but there's this case where like this like trans woman who had like her sperm froze before she had an operation, and like she had a relationship with this woman, and like the partner, the woman got pregnant with the froze sperm, but like after the trans woman got operation, like she could not be a parent, although like she actually is like blood related, she could not be parent, and like they're having a low case now. But yeah, that's kind of the difficulties we are facing.
妊娠して子供を作ったんですよ。
はい、僕の場合はですね、
He's gonna talk as a trans man. So in terms of trans man, as long as like you're changing the ID as a man, like you can get married, like you can be a father of a kid. Although like you can change ID, like there's people there's trans men who is not changing the ID and like raising a kid with his partner. Some trans men quit hormonal care treatment, and then like they're like some of them like like having their own children by themselves.
子供を持って暮らしている人たちもいたりとか。
So how about just love, right? Like forgetting about the ID changes and the legality of things. How about trans men being able to find love?
なんか、僕の周りの
As a trans man, like although like there's like a lot of sexuality, like it's not necessarily like heterosexual, like like towards like men, like but like in the gay community as well, there's like this difficulty of like gay like cisgender gay men is like a like like better than a trans man, kind of this idea. So like the trans men are really having a difficult time to kind of because like they have this like really small field to fall in love. Some of them like don't wanna put a like operation on their body, but like to be as good as like a cisgender man, like should I have operation, like this kind of like struggle.
日本でもなかなかペニスまでつける当事者が少ない現状があるので。
were you able to show the movie in the end to any of your friends, families, or colleagues? And how was their reaction? Right, somebody who's not a very regular part of your trans. So,
制作して2000
screening this film, Tomoya met a lot of people who are not in the community, and like they are surprisingly like their feedback was like they're like somehow related to like what the transgender community are facing in terms of like loneliness and like in terms of this isolation or like this like sexism like idea that like kind of covering Japanese society, even though like they are not like the transgender in the transgender community, like they still feel in their own way. So like watching this film and like especially this like end credit where like a lot of interviewees are like giving this like supportive message of like in the end credit, and like they are really moved, like a lot of people are like really moved, and like yeah, like some of them like even cried. Some of them like didn't know this reality in Japan, so like they really like it was like a really good opportunity for them to understand like how like difficult it has been for the transgender community in Japan, and like how they could make change.
and for you, Yuki, were you able to show it to any of your friends and family? That you have kind of shot this film and edited this film. What was their reaction?
Yeah, it's actually kind of like same as like what Tomoya said. Like yeah, my colleague like really like cried, and like she was like really moved, and like she's not a transgender, but like she's still like really like, and like she didn't really know about this issue at all, but like she was like really like yeah, like moved and like encouraged by how tough they are in the film as well. She kind of like became like one of the biggest fan of Tomoya really. So yeah, like it's really positive reaction, and yeah, we're happy about it. Yes.
So just like now we're kind of coming towards the end. We'll have like 3-4 short questions, and you can just answer in one word that describes you for Tomoya, you, and Tomato.
波乱万丈.
So like this idiom is kind of like stormy and full of drama, and like like a lot of things happening. And yeah, that's kind of like what, including excitement as well. Yeah, that's kind of the meaning of this idiom.
So one question for Tomato: what's her favorite movie? And if you could explain in one line.
ネットフリックスのシカゴ17が、あれはベトナム。
Her favorite film is Chicago 7. It's a Netflix show, and that's because it's about this like activists in a different field, but like she thinks this is kind of like connecting to this Stonewall activism, like a action that happened, and like the Stonewall is like kind of like influence this worldwide the transgender community and like all the LGBTQ community. So she feels like this is really important to watch, and also because the film portrays this like people in like so many different kind of people, like in like different role. So like she feels this like like you don't really have like this one, you don't have to stay in this one role, like it's like anything, it can be really diverse. And yeah, like she was really moved by that.
Yuki, the next question for you, what one superpower or one superhero that you like the most?
I love Marvel, so there's like a lot of superhero I love, but I think I like Spider-Man.
Great. You chose the easy one out.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. That was really easy. Thank you.
We are kind of towards the end. We'll call back Sridhar now.
Thanks a lot for this wonderful conversation in Japanese and English. Thank you, Yuki, for translating so brilliantly Tomoya's and Tomato's words. And thank you, Shaman, for this wonderful Q&A. And I love the rapid fire, actually. I love that a tomato like Chicago 7. I love the series too. So thank you for that. And I really appreciate this whole Q&A. It brought out so many aspects were related to Japanese culture and also Indian culture with respect to transgender community. So this particular film is up for documentary feature competition. So this film stands to win $275 if it wins. So best of luck for that, Tomoyo and Yuki and everybody related to the film. I hope it wins the award. The award ceremony will be on September 5th. So please join us on the social media handles to watch the award ceremony and hope you win it. So we still have 2 more weeks of the film festival still running. So if you're not registered for the film festival yet, please go to mumbaiqfs.com and register to buy the weekend passes for the next 2 weekends, which are still there. Really appreciate all of you joining in. And if you have any questions for Tomoyo, Yuki, or Tomato, please put it here and I'll make sure that they will watch and reply to this particular questions here. And also if you have questions for Shaman about the trans men community in India, please put it here and I'll make sure that they'll see this particular comments and respond to it. Yeah, so thanks a lot for joining in. Really appreciate this wonderful conversation. Thank you.